Hello.
Hey,
How's it going? How are you?
well,
Can you hear me?
There. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Sorry, I had taken the camera with me on the trip, and so I plugged it all back in and the settings.
Nice.
Gosh, I know that our chairman is trying to get in.
Oh no.
He's having some difficulty.
Technical issues.
Hold on, I'll tell him to just use the regular link. Of course, I'm forgetting who all our other panelists are.
The members of the committee are Christina Ines,
Yep,
Ali Patel,
yep.
Matthew it's either Schaefer Schaff, I apologize if I said that wrong, and Jessica Remington. Hello.
Hi all. I think I might have had the wrong link to begin with. Sorry about that.
No, I think we're all having a little bit of trouble with it.
did the link on the website work for everyone?
It did not for me. I had to paste it into my browser. It
Oh.
didn't directly bring me in.
Yeah, I had to do the same. Pasting worked, but clicking the link did not.
Yeah, same for me.
I had to use my Gmail account, which was odd.
I could not get in through Zoom. I'm on the web client, which might have missing features, but we'll find out.
I see, is Jess just without the last name, could that be Jessica Remington?
Yes, most likely.
Hi, I think I've been officially joined as a panelist now. Sorry, this is Jess Remington. Let me add my full name if possible. But hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to try updating the link on the calendar.
Ooh, you're gonna do it on the fly. That's
I was able to get in using the calendar link.
Interesting.
Did you have to copy and paste it, or were you able to just click it and it took you right there?
Yeah, I just clicked on it and here I am.
Nice. Okay.
Well, that is something we can figure out later at this point. So sorry for the confusion, everyone. Not sure who else has had in the audience has had trouble joining today, but we'll have to do some more testing next time. I'm just fixing my audio since I restarted my computer and everything while trying to get in.
Matthew, did you hear my Siri?
I heard something going on in the background. Yeah.
For some reason, it recognized your voice and it mimicked you and it said, "Here I am."
When we need our comedic interlude, we can keep that in mind for a half hour from now.
Nice. I see that Phil Newland is in the attendees group.
He can join us. Okay. Well, I cannot get my headset to work right now, so we're just gonna do it this way. I think this is everyone that I was expecting. I don't think will be able to join us tonight, unfortunately. So I'm just going to pull up the agenda and we can get things kicked off. Can everyone see my agenda tab?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you for everyone who joined tonight. Apologies for the technical difficulties and the late start, but hopefully we can get things moving. I'm going to go ahead and call the roll at 7:06 p.m. on Wednesday, March 1st. So I'll just go through the list of committee members and then the commissioners that are present. I will start with Commissioner Ray is first on my screen.
Present.
Commissioner Footer.
Present.
Committee member Batal.
Present.
Committee member Schaaf.
Present.
Committee member Remington.
Present.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
And Commissioner Newland.
Present.
Awesome. And Commissioner Jacobson is myself, and I am here. We noticed this meeting via a few community listservs on our social media, website, our e-calendar, as well as our mailing list. Now I'd like to quickly discuss the agenda, and then we can go ahead and get started. So we first have the consent agenda. We'll have time for community announcements. We'll go through official business and have time for community discussion during the official business, and then adjourn. And I know I'm missing something on this official business section. I know Commissioner Footer wanted to present an 8th Street redesign. And when I was looking at the New Hampshire and Rock Creek Church Road improvements earlier, I realized that the changes on that road were outside of the commission, so I will remove that from the agenda. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Okay. So the consent agenda is just covering our ANC 1E public meeting minutes for, I need to update this, our February 23 TPS. And those have been posted on the website already in draft form. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Footer. Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 And all those opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So that passes with a vote of 8. And now we'll move on to the consent or to the community announcements. So commissioners and members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. Speakers will have 3 minutes. And I will start with members of the committee and commissioners. Does anyone have an announcement that they would like to make or any comments on business? Okay. Commissioner Footer.
Great. I wanted to first just commend the chair for a lot of hard work over the past month and having some immediate successes with that hard work. And I hope that you will outline exactly what you were able to accomplish over this past month, but there are 2 successes that I'm specifically thinking of, so great job. 2, I wanted to just kind of update that we have, I have great news that Howard University has agreed to 2 specific requests that we have asked. One is to increase lighting on the Bond Reco building, even though it's temporary. They said that it'll take about 6 to 9 months. I tried to ask if there's anything that the ANC could do to try and expedite some of that, and they said no, it was a bureaucratic issue at Howard University. So more details to come, but that was one of the pieces of the larger redesign puzzle that I'll talk about later, and we were successful in that. The second thing is that Howard University has also included a regularly scheduled street cleaning or sidewalk cleaning around Bon Recco. And that was instituted, I believe, a week or two ago, and it is happening every Tuesday and Wednesday. So 2 successes on 8th Street and S&D 1E07 that I just wanted to share. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Footer. Yeah, echoing or going off of that, we did end up passing the Bryant Street bike lane review request for DDOT during our ANC 1E meeting this month, and that has been posted to the ANC resolutions website as well as passed over to DDOT, who will be reviewing it and said that they would provide some comment. And then we were able to pass the approval or the resolution. I don't remember what our exact language was, but giving approval or discussion to the Rock and Roll Half Marathon that's happening later this month.
And Mr. Chair, I was commending you for the constituent service successes that you had, particularly around the bike lane outlines that were on.
Yes, that was a community effort from some of our other committee members. I believe you're talking about on Warder, where there were bike lane markings that were missing due to some, yeah. Thank you for that. And I did also testify at the DGS oversight hearing, and sounds like we're going to be able to get some movement on fixing some issues at Banneker Park with the fencing and missing infant swings. So hoping we'll be able to get 3 of those 4 missing infant swings up and running. Any other commissioners or community members that wanted to comment on anything? Commissioner Newland, did you have anything? I know this is your first time here, so I want to make sure that you have space to.
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, wanted to share, share with this group that I met earlier this week with some folks at Howard University, their Office of External Affairs, and also some students from the Student Government Organization, and wanted to share their concerns and feelings with this group about the bus lane that will be going up Georgia Avenue. Their specific concerns were around the parking spots that will be eliminated to accommodate the bus lane going up Georgia. So again, just wanted to share with the group, but it's something that I'll be in contact with them about. And yeah, that was the main thing. I just wanted to share with the folks here that they expressed concern about that project. And it's going to be an ongoing conversation.
Thank you for providing that background, Commissioner Newland. I am curious to hear if they've seen the plans in depth, or if it would be helpful for us to review more of them with those, because I think the overall parking loss is relatively small. So maybe we can have that conversation at a later date. And I see Commissioner Ray is raising his hand. So
sorry, I'll just add on to that, because I heard that this might come up, and so I looked at the plans. And just so the rest of the committee is aware, if you look in front of Howard University, today on the northbound side, it's 2 travel lanes and a parking lane. And in the bus project, at least the draft that we got the first time around, which was many months ago, it actually removes the parking because they feel that the lanes are too narrow. So it's a little interesting in that today we can operate 2 travel lanes and a parking lane, and the buses get through just fine. But that in the new system, somehow there isn't going to be enough room. So it's something I think for us to maybe, to certainly have some future conversations around.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray. Any other announcements from the committee members? All right, we'll move it over to other community members. Were there any community members present tonight that wanted to speak on a particular issue that isn't in the official business section? Since we'll have time during that. All right, seeing as no one is raising their hand, we can go ahead and move on to the official business section. So in the official business section, we'll be limiting to 5 minutes of presentation unless the committee decides to extend that, followed by questions from the committee and audience until a motion to close discussion is passed, and followed by a vote. I see that Paco has been taken into the panelists, and then I believe Kay is going to be joining him. And Kay is joining now too. Great, thank you. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Good
Kay,
evening.
thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for putting us on the agenda. We really appreciate it. I'm going to start by just introducing the concept, and Paco can add the technical details since he's working directly on the permit. First of all, my name is Kay Pearson. I'm the manager for Lower Georgia Avenue, Main Street. And the idea of Africa and the Avenue actually was started last year, and it is designed to lift up the rich culture of the continent as well as to bring awareness to the specific issues faced by African immigrants, as well as provide information to those still navigating the immigration system. What it actually is, it's an event that's scheduled for May 20th from 11 a.m. to 5:00 p.m. At Bruce Monroe Park, which is at the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Columbia Road. It will be a day of performances, speeches, and vendors, essentially. There will be dancers and drummers, stilt walkers, different types of bands, and a disc jockey who will kind of fill in the empty spaces. It is also a broad community collaborative involving at least 6 different African embassies, at least 20 African vendors who will be offering food, clothing, and wares. There also involved are the community-based organizations who help out with immigration related issues. And of course, the mayor's office, African Affairs is involved. And we also intend to invite some of the agencies that businesses deal with, such as the Department of Licensing and the Department of Building. That's what it is in a nutshell. We will have a sound system at the stage. There's a little gazebo at that particular location, and that is where the performances will be held. And there will be also a kids' corner with face painting and balloons and such. So Paco, did you have anything else to add, or did you want to talk about the permit?
Yeah, I was just going to get straight to the point. You covered most of it, Kay. We're just looking for permission for amplified sound use. It's going from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're not going to be running late because I'm going to be there and I'm going to be wanting to take it down and go home at the end of it after a good event. But yeah, just hoping for your collaboration and excited to kind of meet you guys and hopefully collaborate going forward on these community events to promote some of the local businesses. I will just add to what Kay said, that some of these African-owned businesses on Georgia Avenue, they attract people of African descent from around the DC and Mid-Atlantic area. So really want to highlight that. and promote that in our mission to promote local businesses.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. I'll open up the floor to any questions from commissioners or committee members.
Thank you all to the, oh, well, earlier. Thank you all to the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Streets team, Kay and Paco. I really appreciate you developing this event. I know it started with your predecessor, but I'm so glad that it'll be happening at Bruce Moore Park in my single member district. And I really love the purpose of it. You know, Georgia Avenue is known for African and Caribbean businesses and African American businesses along the corridor. So I'm hoping that a lot of outreach will be done to ensure that the residents, but also the business community within your network are able to attend. I have a couple of questions because I had shared a draft of the support letter with the chairman of this committee and with Kay, and just let me know if it's missing anything, as it's currently in draft. But I wanted to confirm if there will be, I know there's going to be entertainment there, but amplified, an amplifier with sound, and if there will be porta potties available on site, and if there's efforts that will be taken to clean the park area, garbage and so forth, just making sure that it's maintained to its original state when the event is over.
I would say yes, excuse me, yes to all of that. There will be amplified music, and we are getting porta potties, and we do have a crew that will clean up so that the place will look like it did before. Definitely.
The request, yes, I believe I put all of that in the letter. I recirculated the same letter that we moved before ANC1A, and glad that everything is all in there. Just a request to please share your communications with us so that we can share it far and wide and throughout our single member districts.
Share our communications, you mean our
flyers, any
flyers,
email
okay.
blasts.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Social media.
Yeah, any promotional. And the other thing I'll say is one of the big initiatives this year is to build our volunteer base. So any sort of networks, we do have a really good one in Columbia Heights specifically, but Lower Georgia Avenue, because of COVID, we haven't been able to pick up momentum again. So any sort of recommendations or ways that you guys see opportunities for that, that would be a great help.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, I was going to say Commissioner Ray, and then I have a question for Paco.
Sure. So I'll first start by saying we should probably connect you with Georgia Avenue Thrive. They run the cleanups along Georgia Avenue, so they certainly have an email list of people who might be interested in being volunteers. So we can, between Commissioner Brown and I can do that. The only question I had, and it's actually not so much for this event itself, but who is the agency that's giving you the permit? It's giving you the permit to do this.
So DPR has already sent us the invoice. So it's DPR for this.
Okay.
But they have asked us to share your letter as soon as possible.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. It's just that Commissioner Brown is aware DPR doesn't necessarily consider this to be one of their parks. So I find that interesting. So that's all. Thank you.
Really, that is interesting because it is on their website as one of theirs.
Well, it doesn't count for alcohol licenses. We know that. Thank you. That's all I have.
There's park ranger services available. So definitely, if you have any issues with I plan to be there, but if you have any issues in terms of like the park being open during a certain period of time and, just other services available, there is a park, even though it's not a program DPR park, there's park ranger services available. And from time to time, they tend to be late and and include Bruce Monroe last and prioritize the DPR parks first. So I'll share my cell phone if you have any issues with accessing the park for you to start setting up.
Commissioner Brown, I want to thank you for your support and for your letter. I will definitely share it with Paco, send it to him as soon as we finish here. And it means a lot. It means a lot that you stepped up like that.
And I think we have to vote on it at our next meeting. So
Yes.
wait for the approved one.
Yes, ma'am.
They'll get there.
I guess, is it urgent to get that out before the March 22nd meeting?
No, I think we're in the grace period.
Okay.
I will connect Monet, who sent me the invoice with you, so she'll just know that you guys are aware and vice versa. I think it'll be
Okay.
fine.
Sounds good. Committee member Schaaf.
Thank you. Thank you, Kay and Paco, for the presentation. It sounds like a great event. I just wanted to ask if there were any anticipated disruptions to the transit and sort of public space around there. You know, of course, there's the park itself, but there's also the community garden, and if access to that community garden would be limited at all during that period. And then there's also the 79 and 70 bus stop is immediately adjacent to the park as well. I'm assuming that the sidewalk would be unencumbered, but I just wanted to double check with you folks.
That's correct. We don't anticipate blocking the street in any way. There's parking in the back, a limited space in the back for our vendors and performers to use. So that's what we'll be using to load and unload. And with respect to the community gardens, we would not block any egress to that. Paco, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say we specifically asked to have exclusive use of the parking lot for the day in order to not disturb transportation. The community garden, we're trying to stay off of it, and we will, we're going to be in the playground area a little bit. And I'm happy to share the plan with you guys so you can see. But that's kind of the reason why we want the kids corner to have some engaging activities for kids maybe just wandering in the neighborhood who were looking to come to the playground that day.
Great, thank you.
All right, in the interest of time, are there any community members that would like to provide comment or ask any questions? We'll limit it to a minute at this point so we can get to some of the other agenda items if there is anyone. All right, does not look to be any community or anyone in the audience that wants to speak up. Paco, Kay, thank you again so much for coming and presenting on this. Excited for the event and excited to do what we can to support you. And I'll definitely plan to be coming that weekend. So thank you.
Please do, and thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And then I guess for the committee members, do I have any motion to support the event, Rashida's or Commissioner Brown's letter?
So moved.
Any
Seconded.
seconds? Okay.
Seconded.
If you could signify your vote by raising your hand. Can we go ahead and vote for, yep, cool. All those in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4. And Jess, can you at least speak up?
Yes, in favor. Sorry about that.
It's all good. All right, well, that was everyone, so we do not need to go through the rest of that process. Okay, Paco, thank you again so much for attending. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, the next item on the agenda is to talk about the DDOT livability study improvements to New Hampshire Avenue Northwest and Otis Place Northwest, or rather Otis Place Northwest between New Hampshire and Georgia. And I see Joelle has been promoted. Thank you for whoever's doing that in the background.
Good evening, everyone. I am trying to find my my video. If I don't find it, I'm here. I went to show my face, but most importantly, can you see my screen?
Yes. And did you want us to promote Patrice as well? Patrice Brooks,
Oh.
I think.
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Sorry, Patrice. Thank you all for having me tonight. I don't know from the last time how many of you are familiar, so I want to briefly go through the kind of the scope of the project, and I'll go through it as quickly as I can, and so we can kind of get to the other points of this whole conversation. So there's a project for it's a long title, but essentially it's New Hampshire Avenue at Rock Creek Church Road and Otis Place, as well as Princeton Place and New Hampshire Avenue. So there are 4 main areas. Area 1 is the main intersection of New Hampshire Avenue. Area 2 is Rock Creek Church Road. I know that that is not in this single member district, but it is part of the project, so, and an important part. So, touching on it. And then area 3 of Otis Place, and area 4, which is just north on Princeton Place. I have a typo, but and New Hampshire. And so these are the areas of concentration that we're utilizing not old, but in combination with the livability studies that were created and generated, and instead of doing the plans that were generated, instead of doing them as flex posts and painting, which are great in the interim, they were diverted to our team to find a more permanent solution, and we did so throughout these designs. And these are some, they're small, but these are some other examples that are happening in Ward 1. So that's the site, and I did want to touch on, so this is just a close-up overview of the areas. So area 1, Rock Creek Church Road, primarily for pedestrian safety, using curb and gutter and green space, causing the Rock Creek Church Road, drivers, users have to essentially tee up and come to a full stop before they could take the right onto New Hampshire. We'll be utilizing shortening the crosswalks for pedestrian safety measures, and also doing that in area 2 at the New Hampshire Avenue intersection. So we'll be continuing the sidewalk extension, which helps, shorten the crosswalk for pedestrian safety. And we'll be implementing a high-vis crosswalk at that space. It will have, curb and gutter with low green space to, soften the bulb outs. But we're also doing it here on Otis Place at the intersection of New Hampshire Avenue and Otis Place. So that will be a pedestrian safety measure that will be implemented to shorten the crosswalks for users there. And then area 3 is a hot topic. In reviewing the livability studies, there's some factors that come in when we are able to take on a design or whatnot. And DDOT saw this intersection holistically as a good opportunity to utilize some data and studies that have been done by the district with the impact of heat on the community. So this area in general is ranks higher with heat sensitivity impacts. And in combination with the project, this Otis Place presented a good opportunity to implement measures to help reduce essentially heat sensitivity and heat impacts to the community. it's a growing concern, but it's a way that the district can help the health of the community and the residents that all live here. There are some examples of this one in particular is on the right-hand side is examples that we have implemented in Ivy City. I know you all are familiar with the green infrastructure type that's happening that was implemented on Park and Water, but this is occurring throughout the city. I think what's nice in these screenshots, it kind of shows the impact that the trees have, but so you only see two right here, but down this whole stretch, it was originally a street that didn't have, is tight street, didn't have any tree space zone and was filled with, impervious surfaces. But what you can't see is that the trees are kind of nestled in on the street, but are providing a huge service to this community in reducing, the heat and stormwater impacts that are actually affecting the area as well. And so I've just provided some examples of what these intersections could look like and what are happening around the city for people to get an understanding of like, what does that look like in 3D? And I just want to move to a block north, Princeton Place, where this is also part of the livability study, where on Princeton Place, the roadway is extremely large. It is only really utilized for a bus turnaround, and it presented another great opportunity for pedestrian safety by extending, the curb bulb outs on the northeast side. We're having a few issues on the northwest side were some issues. So the focus at this time is the northeast side, and we're also implementing some longer, wider tree bump outs, but this one's essentially getting a road diet because of just the narrow use of the limited use of this street. And some more images on the right of what it has the potential to look like. And I want to jump to that I submitted 2 NOIs this week. I am seeing the commissioners tonight and the single member districts represented underneath. I got all the information off the website and I hope I have it wrong. I have it right, sorry, but I may have addressed it to the wrong commissioners, but I think in overall it went to Commissioner Footer. So that's besides the point. But these were implemented this week. There were no changes based off of the community meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago, because the intention was always to upload the NOI with as it was kind of what we were presenting originally, to open up the ability for all comments to come in. So this is still part of the process. I didn't mean for it to say that what we had was not considering. It just was the baseline for what was to be presented, so that we could go through the process of collecting all the comments, providing, giving people an opportunity to comment on the proposed designs. So that happened this week. And once we, collect input, I have a lot of input from the community already, but, through the NOI process, if there's more comments to aggregate them, review them, regroup with how we can address the comments, and then come back out to the public to present what was determined. So that is really it. I have all my information there, and I will open it up for questions.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation and the background there. I will start with Commissioner Ray since he has his hand raised.
very helpful on this process so far, and I'm glad for the clarification that we're still sort of in the design phase of this, because I know there are going to be certainly some comments from us, but then I'm sure continued comments from the community. Just wanted to clarify, in the livability study, they used an extension of the median on New Hampshire, and I don't see that represented in the new design. Is that something you would still be able to consider? Should we comment on that?
Oh, was it this way? Here?
Correct.
That may have just been an oversight on our, well, I do know that coming from Otis, I think it was a turn, I might have to revisit I think maybe the turning radius with this new bulb out was maybe going to impact this, but we'll make note of it and review that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And yeah, I figured the turning radius could be a question mark, because in the original livability, I don't believe we were adding quite this extent of bulb out. So, but I would, if it is possible, I would have you look back at that, because I have gotten comment from people before about extending it, and so that it becomes more of a pedestrian refuge than what it is today.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to clarify for everyone on the Princeton Place, the changes there, there's no parking on either side of the street on there. So those extensions won't actually cause any kind of a parking impact for anyone that lives in that general area. Those are all non-parking parts of the curb. But that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, we wanted to extend it more, but we saw that buses can't make the turn, and they have a hard time making the turn now, and so we had to shorten it.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members or commissioners on the line? I will just say I appreciate the work that's being done here. I definitely agree that we need to do what we can to harden our infrastructure and make areas, especially in 1E, safer for pedestrians, since there have been a lot of crashes here and a lot of injured pedestrians, and there's an ambulance going by outside right now. And I appreciate the work that's being done to help reduce temperatures in the district through these tree canopies. It's interesting to look at temperature variation across the district. There's maps of that you can see when, if you look at temperature in the Pleasant Plains area and compare to Rock Creek Park, there are portions of Rock Creek Park that can be 10 to 20 degrees different, and a lot of that's just because of having a little bit more nature there. So I appreciate the work that's being done there. I know that there's one community member that wanted to give a presentation given the feedback that they had. So I wanted to recognize that community member, and we can raise them as panelists. Mr. Lip will go through his presentation, and then Joel, if you could stick around, I'm sure we'll have more questions for you at that point.
Of course.
Hello, thank you. I'm gonna share my screen. See if this works. Can everybody see that?
I can now.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the concerns that the neighbors on Otis Place have with this proposal that DDOT just presented, and also to go into an alternative that we've proposed and that we're sort of in the process of discussing with DDOT now. Let's see if I can advance. So just to go through our concerns. So first, this is a very narrow one-way street. It's a residential street with parking currently on both sides. A lot of us have had our cars damaged recently because when cars turn out of the alley, particularly large cars like garbage trucks or ambulances, there's just a really narrow turning radius for them right now. And our concern is that any additional obstacles that you'd put in the right of way would just make that potentially more difficult for those vehicles navigating that turn. And it's expensive, it's inconvenient when our cars are just repeatedly hit by other cars coming down that turn. Second, just in general access for garbage trucks and emergency vehicles. So as I mentioned, there's an alley that fronts right onto where the proposed tree pits are in the DDOT plan. Right now, garbage trucks, in order to access that alley and empty the trash, they have to kind of do all sorts of maneuvering. They actually go the wrong way down the one-way street. Even when they're going in the appropriate direction, they have to like repeatedly maneuver. Sometimes they actually honk on the street until people have to come and move their cars. And so again, anything that's potentially narrowing the roadway, putting additional obstacles in the roadway in that particular location, opposing the alley, is just a major concern for us. Third, a huge concern is the lack of resident parking on the street. So a lot of the people who live on the street use cars to get to work, to buy groceries. People have mobility issues, or they have relatives that have mobility issues. And so just a big concern with eliminating 4 parking spots, which is what the DDOT proposal looks like it would do, 3 for the tree pits, and then 1, they're adding a no parking sign where people currently park. And, you know, for us, especially now that it's March and we're going to have alternate side parking coming into effect, I mean, a lot of us just twice a week are circling the block, you know, looking for parking. For me, that can take, you know, 20 minutes occasionally for just driving around. It's a big burden. It's costly. It's not great for the environment either. In terms of trash and rodents, fourth, we have a huge problem right now with trash accumulating in the street, and corresponding to that, like just rats everywhere. We're worried this could create a new habitat for that, and that without any sort of like corresponding effort to deliberately check in on the pits for it to manage that issue, that could just expand it. Fifth, I want to talk about lead line replacement. So we do have lead service lines on the block. We're not yet scheduled for lead line replacement, but when that is scheduled, it's going to happen in the same area that a lot of this digging is supposed to happen. I recently got my water tested. I have lead in my water. And so there's a concern about noise and construction on the block happening twice, and also just a waste of resources if the same area has to be dug up twice. And then sixth, finally, you know, we have been giving feedback with all these concerns to DDOT for months now, and none of the feedback, as far as we can tell, was incorporated into the proposal for the notice of intent, which has a very tight time frame for comments. And so that's also a concern of ours, just a failure to really listen to or incorporate any feedback from the community. And then all of this feeds into equity, which is, you know, these residents are being asked to shoulder this burden, you know, for, I don't know exactly what the benefit is, because we're willing to consider alternatives that have the same benefit, but it's not clear why these particular residents should bear the burden of this decrease in parking. So I want to just quickly get to the next topic. So we circulated a petition for all these reasons in January of 2023, had a huge you know, response to the petition in terms of 16 signatures from residents on the block, 11 lots on the block. That's the majority of lots on the block, and a really diverse group of signers, people who moved here recently, people who've lived here for almost 80 years. And we are open to alternatives, but people are just not invested in this current plan. So what I'm showing now, this is just to visualize it. I mean, the gray box there is where the proposed tree pits would go, where the parking would be eliminated, and the green are all the different lots with people who signed onto the petition opposing this plan. One of my neighbors, Eileen, who I think is here, prepared this. And this is just our alternative proposal that we're currently considering. And this would provide the same benefits in terms of additional tree canopy and stormwater retention, just by relocating the trees to the ends of the blocks where they don't interfere with existing parking. And so what we would ask is that the current plan just be withdrawn or rejected to allow us to consider alternatives like this one, and also that, you know, there be some coordination with the lead line replacement, so that we're not, whatever the proposal is, we're not digging the same area twice. So that's it for me now. I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Ray?
I generally agree with the proposal that the community has kind of come up with. And I would say that in the meetings that we've had with Joelle so far, I do believe that DDOT is kind of diligently working on that. Obviously tonight, we'll discuss later on with the rest of the committee, how we'll put together what our forward recommendation is going to be. But I think we can certainly try to work with the community in considering some locations that would be less impactful, because I do think, and I'll be frank, I do think the design of 3 bulb outs that are staggered is probably a little too interrupting to the community and to the neighborhood, whereas putting them, and we did this on Warder, by the way, on Warder Street, we added them, but then we added them on the ends of the blocks, or kind of in the middle where we have long blocks where there were crosswalks, and so it kind of made some sense. So I'm hopeful that we can get there. The only other thing I would say on the lead replacements, I hate to break this to you, but you're going to have it happen twice. It doesn't matter how they do it, because it's 2 different groups. The lead line replacements will be done by DC Water and their contractors, and they will have to dig up sections of the street that are kind of in the middle, and then in front of in many cases, right in front of your own homes. So no matter how they run this program, you're going to have this sort of construction issue. And as far as I'm aware, again, from the Water Street example, the tree pits are not going to be, I hate using that word, the tree bulb outs are not going to be moved after that, because we put the water ones in first, and then the DC Water came back in and did its work. So I'll just say that's probably how that's going to work. And that's all I need. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Wright. And then Commissioner Footer, and then I have a question after Commissioner Footer.
Thank you. Mr. Lip, could you go to the next slide? Maybe, sorry, the one that had the nice topographical map, this one, yeah. Where are the issues with the trucks coming in and damaging? Is it on the right side, which I assume is that east?
So this map is oriented like north is up. And so it's the alley kind of in the middle at the top. It looks kind of like a brownish brick color.
It's like parallel to New Hampshire.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. And so that's where they're coming in and out and damaging.
Yes, that's where the garbage trucks come in and out and have to turn.
Gotcha. I do have a kind of on that note, and some of the concerns that you guys have relayed, I did want to ask DDOT some questions about it. So, Mr. Chair, should I hold on that? Oh, perfect. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. Mr. Chair, is this a time to kind of direct it to DDOT, or should I hold and we're going to go back to them?
I do actually have a question about, this is helpful to see. I guess question for Mr. Lip, since before we get to the DDOT portion. Do you know if there's been any conversation with DPW about switching out trucks? I can't tell if this is the smallest truck, but I know that there are different sized trucks, and we just had we've had issues in the alley behind where I live, and our DPW was able to swap out to a smaller truck and prevent those issues from happening.
I'm not aware of those conversations. It's possible.
Okay.
Certainly, I think that's a good idea if that's a possibility.
Yeah, we can follow up on that. I think I'll work with Commissioner Ray and Commissioner Gallagher, who their SMDs are in this area, and figure out how we want to approach DPW about this. Because I think I've seen smaller trucks than that, but I can't tell from that image.
Thank you.
And then Committee Member Schaaf, was your question related to DDOT, or was it directed to Mr. Lip?
Probably to Mr. Lip. It pertains to this photo actually in front of us here. So that black vehicle is actually illegally parked. The parking sign is on the post in front of the vehicle, and so anything there's generally 25 feet in between for legal parking there. And so I guess that's one issue. To what extent are folks using the space according to how it's been currently signed? But I also wanted to ask about, there's a school at the end of the street, and to what extent the school has been taken into consideration by the other members of the community there, and then also DDOT in the formulation of this plan.
So I mean, our approach has been knocking on doors and talking to residents. We haven't done outreach to the school yet. I mean, I would have to imagine there's going to be a conflict of interest there because the school vehicles are often, parking on the street, driving down the street, but and taking up, spots that residents would use to park. But that's the school side is the Georgia Avenue side, and so there is a lot more kind of parking along Georgia Avenue, and there is, public transit on Georgia Avenue that's generally available.
Thank you. And then, Jill, I know that you had your hand raised. Did you have a question for Mr. Lip?
No, I really was, it was about DC water and where the lead is replaced. Like, does it start at the sidewalk and go towards the house? Because if that is the case, then anything that was proposed in the street, there wouldn't be a double construction impact. It was really, it was more like a question to the crowd, because I feel like where I saw it at Water, it happened at the sidewalk and then back to the house and not in the street. But I mean, it was an overall question.
My understanding is that there's a main line kind of in the middle of the street and that there are service lines that connect to it. And so I think it would be sort of both in the street and also under the sidewalk. But I could be wrong about that.
They dug that up. They dug up a path in the middle because they have to connect to the main line. And then they usually dug up a section of the sidewalk, and then sometimes a section where you see, oh, this picture is really good. A lot of times they will literally have to dig up a hole that's going to be right in the middle of that garden space that's in front of the porch. And then they'll use those holes to run the lines underneath the sidewalk, underneath the rest of the road. They don't need to do a trench. It's not a trench style thing. It's more of a hole, and then they run it all through.
Thank you.
And then Commissioner Footer, you had a question for Jill?
I guess I just wanted, and pardon my ignorance in this, but in the development of the plan, it seems like a number of these things are, I hate to say it this way, but quite obvious. Particularly if the community, Mr. Lip and others have been reporting some of the incidences of side swiping, all that kind of stuff with the city. How are you guys aggregating data across different agencies in order to accommodate some of the different aspects of this plan, and how did that come into incorporate into your design?
So the main design, was from previous work and development with DDOT and the communities under the Northwest 3 transportation study. And so those were kind of fundamentally developed prior to coming into our team's hands. But our team is not the planning team, and our team is looks for areas to help reduce stormwater and bring environmental impacts, positive environmental impacts into the right of way. And so it was a kind of a positive relationship for both of us, for both teams to come together to utilize this. So we really just took the specific area locations and kind of expanded beyond what the focus area from the livability studies were, and expanded it to see how we could help improve the areas around these like key nodes along New Hampshire Avenue.
Okay. And then the one thing that Mr. Lip had mentioned, and it's something that I see a lot in my area now, that what do we call them? They're not tree pits, they're tree
bump outs.
Bump outs.
Yes.
And I couldn't tell from your design, are they actually the ones that are, like 2 feet under the level street, or
No.
is it? It's not. So it's not actually going to be like a pit.
Right. That's why I mean, maybe we even change it on our plan. Our plan says tree pit, but they're tree bump outs, and they're at grade. They're at street grade. If do I have? I was like, I can share my screen and show you an image of one.
Yeah, I think you did have a couple in the one that you were sharing before.
I'll try and zoom in. So this is just a street view, but you can see.
Oh, you're not sharing your screen yet.
Oh no. Okay. Sorry. Oh yeah, I didn't hit share.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see the sidewalk over here. Oh, too far. And that's one elevation, and then if you know drag it along, the curb is at the same elevation, and so it's not a drop down.
Gotcha. Okay, then that kind of negates my question. I was going to ask what the maintenance kind of plan was for those kind of ones that go down, because they are trash collecting, but
yeah, there. So the unfortunately, but fortunately, the bioretentions they do drop down, they do collect trash, and the intention is they collect trash there before they go into our streams and waterways. But so through the, during the establishment period of those, they're maintained and regularly maintained, and then after that establishment period, they're handed over to DOE to maintain. So there is maintenance that is happening. It does include, trash removal and weeding and stuff like that. But on Otis, they're the tree
level.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I got for now.
I have a few more questions. I guess, Mr. Lip, does anyone else have a question for Mr. Lip? Okay, otherwise I'm going to move you back to the attendee list, and then we can, if you have other points you want to make, you can raise your hand. Thank you for your time tonight. Okay, and then I guess some questions that I've been thinking through, Joelle. What are the potential challenges with moving the bulb outs to being on one end of the street? Are there drawbacks to doing that in terms of stormwater retention or reducing temperatures in the area? I'm not sure how the science of all that works. I'm just curious what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, it's a great question. In order to, effectively help with the tree canopy, they need to be spread out. We can't really cluster them at it doesn't. So along New Hampshire Avenue, where we're doing the main intersection points, there's already tree canopy. There's a tree space zone, and on Otis Place and Princeton Place, there's no tree space zone. And so there are opportunities, and the reasons why they were clustered in this area on Otis was variables. We ran our auto turn, which took it's a SU30 or SU40, but it's the kind of the semi biggest garbage truck, because this is what we've been told is used in the city, and we assimilate making sure that these trucks can get through, and from our programming they can make the turn. So they're clustered on Otis to provide an impact, but with some variables, that was kind of the deciding factor. We have some catch basins that we don't want to block with roadway runoff, but at the end of the day, we're trying to reduce the impacts to utilities, but we do have, we are hearing what people say, and we do want to push them in and move them in areas so that they don't impact, so they reduce their amount of impact to the residents, but we also want them to provide an ecosystem service, you know, and so it's the nature of kind of the beast that we're dealing with, but we are working to try and reduce the impact. We do recognize that the three right in this concentrated area could potentially be a really big change. We heard that, and we just met with them, the community, like 2 weeks ago, like on site. So it didn't really make sense to redo something. We just really wanted to have a baseline input so that everyone could have kind of an equal viewing or understanding. But long story is, I think we can review the comments from the community and, you know, adjust and see if we can get a balance at the end of the day where it benefits everyone.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm just thinking through if, like, it's tough, right? Like, there's no perfect policy that's going to do everything that we want it to do all the time. There are always trade-offs that we have to keep in mind, and I'm trying to figure out what the right balance is here. And I'm wondering, like, if the tree pits truly do make a difference in particular parts of the block based on modeling of stormwater runoff and modeling of temperature in the area, I think that'd be really important to know. But if it's just we needed to get a design out to move along our process for, you know, I mean, these things have been planned out for a while now, and so there's a particular number that you want to get through. But if it's a situation where we want to just get a start out and we don't know like the full impacts of moving these pieces around the block, that would be helpful to hear. So I guess my question is there that big of a difference to stormwater runoff and temperature changes in the area by clustering them versus separating them out? And maybe the science isn't perfect on that. I'm just curious if you can get into any specifics there.
I do think cluster has a bigger impact because you can kind of just like, yeah, because they're concentrated in an area where it's a bigger surface area to address. Whereas if it's like a one-off, it's, you know, you're kind of spreading out the localized impact. But you know, in theory, every street would have, or ideally, every street would have this tree space zone where the canopy was equally laid out throughout the city, and you know, and then it would work. Then it could be more spread out, you know. But like, I think that's like the intention is trying to keep them clustered so that the, you know, the surface area can kind of meet, or, you know, like there's some overlapping of some canopy. I know that wouldn't happen here, so, you know, spreading them around would be okay, because at the end, you know, I mean, we're not gonna like solve climate change with these three trees. I'm not trying to say that at all, but I guess what I'm trying to say is every little bit will help in the overall picture, and we can, and I mean, yeah, clustering them together is the ideal and most impactful. But I hear what people are saying, and really want to like help and do the part that will slowly chip away at kind of a bigger problem.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. When I say clustering, I mean putting the 3 tree boxes together on the side of the road near Georgia instead of putting them 3 spaced out on Otis.
Oh, so like pushing them down, so pushing them closer to Georgia instead of
yeah, I'm just thinking of Mr. Lip's proposal. I'm wondering, is there that big of a difference between like stormwater retention and temperature control when you put
yeah, I mean, income, so Otis, there is a whole part of the drainage area network So, these three coupled with the New Hampshire intersection and the Rock Creek Church does have they're all kind of somewhat part of a bigger drainage area. So their impact clustered together is a bigger impact than if we do push it closer, because that's a whole different drainage area. So there is some benefit in having them near other green infrastructure.
Got it. So it's more that you want it closer to New Hampshire and Rock Creek Park Road because there are benefits of clustering in that way, and not so much that it needs, sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That is helpful. I guess if the concern is the loss of parking to residents, and this is more of a comment to the rest of the committee, but I'm wondering what the feasibility would be of changing the parking spaces that are currently metered and having those be resident parking, because maybe that could help address and get us closer to Commissioner Ray is shaking his head, so maybe he has a comment there.
Well, we can discuss that when we open it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're looking to from the on-site meeting, looking to disperse them to reduce the width of the bump out. So these right here are in total probably taking up about 18 to 20 feet. If we can reduce them, and in theory, if you're saying a 19, if a car's 19 or 20 feet, that's three parking spots, tree bump out to parking equal ratio. If we can reduce the size to like the ones that are over on Warder and Park, some of them are smaller, that gives back a parking spot. So you still see three trees, but more space back to the, we can kind of reduce it to about two spots lost on the overall street. And then Mr. Lip did talk about what looked at like loss of parking spots with implementation of a sign. But if cars are getting sideswiped from the garbage trucks, it's because we don't have the correct signage in the right spots, and that's on DDOT as an agency to make sure people's cars aren't getting sideswiped and put in the offsets in which we need people to abide by.
Thank you. And then Committee Member Vital.
Yeah, I guess this is more of a comment versus a question, because I've been kind of going and relevant to what you were just saying, Joelle. And I was just taking a look at Otis on Google Maps, and like obviously Google Maps is not like the most reliable source and most up to date, but it looks like the photos that we have on here are from September 2022, so not too far back. And it does look like there are signs indicating like this is where you park, but not necessarily a sign on this kind of spot next to the alley saying to not park here. So definitely something that DDOT can look into to help alleviate the issue of one, illegal parking, and two, property damage of people. So something to definitely look into. But yeah, thank you.
The best spot for one of the tree pits, and this is kind of dragging on, I don't want to take up more time, but the best spot for one of the tree pits, which would reduce the would reduce a car from getting swiped out of the alley, is where where the handicap parking is currently, and so that's not being touched. But because the bump outs are shorter in width, it gives a car or large vehicles, trucks, whatever, about another foot to make that turning radius. But so that's the downside of where an optimal spot to put one would help in everybody's situation, because the trucks would be bumping up against a curb instead of sideswiping a car.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Otherwise, we can move on to community members. Okay, I see Goodrich 2 has their hand raised, so I will go ahead and allow you to talk. All right, you should be able to speak now.
Thank you. Hi, this is actually Eileen Vitelli. I couldn't figure out how to change the name in the attendee mode. I'm a resident at 826, which is directly across from the alley. And overall, I want to say that we are in favor in general of trees on the street. It's actually something I've mentioned several times that it would be nice to have. The question is about the depth of the lead water pipes. And I have an image that I'd like to share if I could share my screen as well.
I think I need to promote you to panelists. Sure, I will go ahead and do that.
Okay.
You should be asked to be promoted to panelists, which will kick you out of the webinar for a second, and then you'll rejoin automatically. If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Sharing my screen. Should see it here in a second.
Yep, we see that.
Great. Okay. This is one of the drawings that was included with the notice of intent, and it shows a section view through the tree area, shall we say. So one of the concerns is the depth of the water pipe and just sequencing the work of the water pipe replacement. I understand from Mr. Ray that there's two things might happen at different times, but we would encourage that if it's possible to have the lead pipe replacement done prior to the tree planting. You know, I'm not sure whether the pipes are at this depth or down here, but it could interfere with the root ball and the stability of the tree if the lead replacement is done after the trees. So it's a main comment that I wanted to share. I also have an image, if I can share an additional page that shows more detail of the street as it is, and it shows the path of travel of the trash trucks that come down right now. So they are coming down the street, and one of the concerns about the bump outs, which we hadn't seen before, is for those trucks to be able to get around and come down the alley in this direction. So I know there certainly will be more conversation. We don't need to belabor it tonight, but that is one area that I think we should discuss further, is the path of travel. If the trucks are coming in or out in this direction, just their ability to get around the turns here. Our preference would be to have the tree pit on this side and to eliminate the bump out on this side. That's all.
Thank you for that comment. I will say TVW should not be going down the wrong way, one way. So that is a conversation that I am more than happy to have with them and make sure that they are following road safety appropriately.
Yeah, they shouldn't, but this turn is really so tight that no trucks or any kind of emergency vehicles can make it. They really have to either come from the Princeton Place side, which is difficult, or come up this direction where they can actually make the turn just because of the radius of that corner.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. Makes me wonder if they need to be using a smaller truck there or changing some of the routes. But yeah, I'm happy to follow up on that and make sure that they've taken all this into consideration as well.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to move you back to an attendee. Are there any other questions or comments from the community? Oh, Commissioner Ray.
Thanks. This hopefully will be the last for Joelle, and we can just open it up for our discussion. the question is, the area where we would put the no parking sign that's next to the alley, is that area, to your knowledge, at least today, is that area in consideration for a bulb out if we put one on that side, or is that a no-go?
It was, but there is, so currently there's a water line and a gas line, and that it was switched to the southern side due to trying to not be in conflict with the water and the gas that are currently there now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we can just open up to discussion among the community or among the committee members at this point, since I don't see any other hands raised.
Can I ask a process question? So
yeah,
what are they looking for from us? This is a open comment period. There's a lot of comment that's coming in already. They're clearly going to take all that in consideration and make changes, whether significant, minor, and then does it come back to us for more of a formal final piece, or is the notice of intent, is this really our thing, and the next round is really more of like just letting the people know this is what they're doing? I guess that is
my understanding is the latter, but Commissioner Ray, if you know.
Well, I mean, I would, and we've got Joelle here who can speak on it probably too, but I'll say the notice of intent, they only have to do that once. So this is our opportunity with the communities and the ANCs to officially give what our feedback would be on, how should they move this forward? And that's really what they're looking for. They want to know, what do we think would be the least impactful and get the most bang for our buck here. So what I would hope that we could try to come up with through our discussion and then eventually through our ANC, the full ANC, is a letter that says, here are the things that we'd like you to try to address in order to kind of move this forward. And then I know in working with Joelle so far that I think we'll certainly get, I don't want to say another bite at the apple here, but we'll certainly get a chance to see the next round of changes. But at that point, and Joelle, correct me, will you be at a 60% design by then, or a 90% design, or do you do that for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're I would say we're at a redesign of 90, so it would be 90.
Okay, so you're at 90, so that means this is probably kind of it, guys.
Well, right. I mean, only because this is kind of the biggest. This is yeah. I don't mean to say like one and done kind of thing, but like we, Yeah,
I've been through this before. So yeah, if we're at 90%, then we need to. I'm not out of focus. We need to get what our final comments are going to be. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I was just going to say the way I'm leaning is I want to figure out if there's a way to remove some of those metered parking spaces. See what the options are there, because I'm not sure why the metered parking spaces exist there. I'm sure there's some reason why they were put there in the first place, but
yeah,
I think that could be a good compromise to give more parking back to the community. And Georgia Ave has plenty of transit options in that area. So if it's because folks need access to a local business, there's plenty of opportunity there through transit.
I mean, my only, and again, my reason for shaking my head before was only that, so the end blocks on Georgia, anything fronting Georgia Avenue, of course, is commercial. And what tends to happen is that as you go around that curve, if it's a business that then fronts that part of the residential street, that's also zoned as commercial. And so therefore all the parking is put in as 2-hour parking or metered parking or something like that. So I would say that, and again, we can put it into the letter. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would say that the chances of them changing the parking from metered to residential is maybe a little less than if we had said, why don't you put one of the tree pits there? Because I think if you put a tree pit there and you put a tree pit along that one of the households that faces New Hampshire as opposed to the households that face Otis. Now that's 2. And if they get a little smaller, well, that's even better. So I mean, I think there are some recommendations that we can make based on what the neighbors have told us that DDOT can take into consideration. Everyone on the call should remember we're giving advice, and ultimately DDOT will decide what it's going to do.
But Commissioner Ray, they have to take what we say with great weight.
Yes, right. Which means they just have to respond. They just have to respond. Even if that response is "Thank you very much. This is what we're doing."
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I guess I would be a little concerned with, at the very least, removing some of the pedestrian hardening infrastructure on the New Hampshire side, further along on Otis. And I know that that's where proposed, Mr. Lip had proposed a tree pit being, but I'm not sure. I guess I'm just a little bit worried. I haven't looked at the crash data for that area, but I have taken my life into my own hands and decided to bike up New Hampshire before, and it's kind of a scary experience. And so I can only imagine what it's like being a pedestrian and walking through that area.
I mean, and I would certainly add to, and I'm just going to throw this out, and other people can maybe jump in. We're at an open point, but I would also mention in whatever letter we put together that they should look at the extension of that median on New Hampshire as well. And so my things would be the extension of the median, looking at the alternative spots that were identified by the neighbors as possible locations for the pits themselves. And the possibility is, can they be smaller? Right now, they're doing a standard size of 18 feet long. I will tell you on Park Place, there are some that are maybe 6 feet long. So I know that's not to design, but if that's possible, that would certainly help as well. So those would be the kind of things that I would want to see in whatever letter we could put together. And I'm happy to help draft that, but it's got to be something the committee can get behind.
And Commissioner Ray, if I can just kind of build off that, I think that's really smart to maybe propose to shrink it, because looking at the designs that they were giving as examples versus the the streetscape that we saw on Otis, there actually is a lot. Their yards are actually much bigger than anything they were showing there before. It seems like there's already a lot of opportunity for the individual households to create their own green canopy space, things of that nature. And then it's not like a concrete jungle like some of the other areas that they may have been expressing the canopies that are really important. And so having a smaller thing may be just as impactful, but building off of what great things they're already doing rather than having to disrupt it as much as they're planning.
And Committee Member Patel, I saw that you raised your hand.
Yeah, I actually just kind of wanted to echo what you were saying about like the pedestrian safety and bump outs. I definitely think that is something that we should very much discourage or encourage DDOT to keep that plan in place. As someone who is frequently a pedestrian on New Hampshire and occasionally bikes, but I don't typically bike on it because it feels too unsafe to bike there, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, again, I don't have the crash data, so I can't, cite anything beyond my own experiences, which obviously are limited. But it is like a pretty, pretty treacherous place to cross the street and walk as a pedestrian. People are walking or driving very, very quickly, and I would definitely, it would be a real shame to do this redesign and not try and make that section of the road, the area, the neighborhood safer for pedestrians and those who are not in cars. So that's my comment on that.
Thank you for that. What are other folks thinking right now? Sorry, I'm trying to buy time while I pull up the crash data for the area. I'm trying to do that at the same time. Go ahead, Commissioner Butter.
I don't know if this would necessarily be the appropriate forum, but just based on some of the feedback that we've heard from the community, I would suggest that the letter include something around improving parking signage and maybe even recommending that they put parking, what are they called? Parking outline boxes on the actual streetscape so that they can see where it really begins and ends, and the signage is not the only thing that's contributing to articulating that.
And Committee Member Shaw.
I agree with what was just said regarding the signage, and it seems like the Google map is in that one spot on Otis Place where the alleyway comes in. It looks like there's a no parking sign, but there was the member of the community who spoke up who said that there wasn't there, who lives across the street. So it sounds like there could be an issue there. Also regarding the parking, sorry, the metered spots. I'm looking at the map of parking meter spaces, and I don't see that on Otis Place. And I just wanted to confirm that they're there, and if so, how many there actually are.
I believe a community member said there were 3.
I'm seeing.
Are you saying you're not seeing them
I see
in the
4.
meter parking spaces map?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on the Open Data DC parking meter spaces, and it's the first time I've been used this resource, so I could be in the wrong place or looking at the wrong thing, but I don't see
There are
them.
4. There are 4.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 2 double-headed metered poles. 2 poles double-headed.
Yeah, Mom
Yeah.
and Pop's Vintage or art or there's an
Yeah.
antique shop right there, and on Google Maps there are 4 metered parking spots, so that might be more up to date. But yeah,
Interesting that it's not appearing on the planning map, which says it's updated as of February of this year.
Yeah, that is helpful to know because I was going to use that data for something, but apparently it's not reliable. Okay. And committee member Remington, was there anything that you wanted to add?
No, sorry, I'm in a loud place right now. I guess I'd say I live along Georgia Ave. I agree with all of the comments about it's not pedestrian friendly, it's not bicyclist friendly. It's pretty crazy to think that just commuting on a daily basis, I feel unsafe. A lot of my neighbors have children, and we're right along Georgia Ave. And I've talked to them. They feel concerned for their children's safety on a regular basis, but I feel like that's sort of the extent of my contribution there in terms of my knowledge of the specific intersections we're discussing, because this is really a general, Georgia Ave problem. But yeah, sorry for any noise in the background.
It's all good. Thank you. Okay, so what I have so far for a letter, we'd want to call out extensions of the median, see if the pits could be smaller, ask if they could take some consideration into the proposals from the community members, add in parking boxes and improve the signage, keep the pedestrian hardening, ask about either changing out some of those metered spaces for parking spaces or putting in a tree box there. I'd also like to just call out, I don't know the best way to phrase this yet, but make sure they're considering the benefits of, or the benefits of having them clustered in a particular area. So could there be some more on New Hampshire or something if they are concerned about clustering as an example? More on New Hampshire on the east side, closer to Otis. And then I also have follow-ups to reach out to DPW and ask them about the route that truck is using and if they have any smaller trucks, given that a few cars have been sideswiped by the garbage truck, or at least perceived to be sideswiped by the garbage truck. Am I missing anything?
Did you mention Commissioner Ray's suggestion to make them smaller than, what did you say, Commissioner Ray, 18 feet, 12 feet? Make it smaller than that?
Yeah, the current design is 18. And if they can be made smaller but still effective, they should at least consider it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, and I think the challenge I have here is it seems like they're there could end up being some parking loss. Maybe we can reduce a little bit of it though, given the community feedback. And maybe we can put some language to that effect in the letter.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is for the community members that have stuck around this long. You should all write your own letters, by the way. That is the point
Yes.
of the NOI process.
Commissioner Ray, can I ask, do we happen to know when the lead pipe, I'll call it redevelopment updating, is scheduled to happen? Is there a published kind of schedule when?
No, not that I'm aware of, but I do know someone I can reach out to find out if Otis is even on their list.
Because
they're going in an order based on how many. It's basically concentrations of the pipes themselves, if they have other road work going on, and then if there are people that are more eligible. So they're trying to get, where they can get them all clustered together. But I've not heard Otis being one of them anytime coming up.
If there is a published schedule and we can see where an Otis is, I'm making this number up, but if construction is going to start in 6 months, maybe we can include in the letter, please coordinate with sister agencies to ensure that there's minimum impact on construction.
Like I said, it is two different, it'll be two different contractors that get contracted with monies that come from two different places. There's not going to be. I mean, we were lucky to be able to coordinate the efforts between Warder only because it all happened to come together at the same time. So.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Joelle before she heads off, since I know it's getting late? All right, well, thank you so much for your time tonight, Joelle. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you sticking around so late and teaching us all about tree bulb outs, or did we say bump outs?
Let's say bump outs, because bulb outs are used like kind of at the
Oh yeah,
at the intersections for pedestrians.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
Thank you all so much. I'm gonna follow up and make sure I have everyone's single member district correct with the new changes and stuff.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Footer probably gets a lot of these anyway, because there are a lot of agencies that send things directly to the chair. So we don't take offense to it.
Thank you.
I assume he'd like you to do that though, so he has less work.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like both.
Yeah. I don't want to make y'all's lives harder than it is. So that's my goal.
All right, do I have a motion on this letter for us to, I think it probably makes sense just to draft it offline, and then we'll be presenting it at the ANC 1E meeting in a few weeks.
So moved.
Okay, so I will go ahead and motion that we write a letter, or I write a letter that will include extensions of the median. Can the pits be smaller than 18 feet? Adding in parking boxes, improving the signage, considering the metered spaces to either have a tree box or be converted into residential parking to help alleviate some of the parking concerns of the residents. Keeping the pedestrian hardening near New Hampshire, and that is it.
So moved, or no, I'm sorry, you moved it.
Yeah, so moved.
Seconded.
Okay. All right, we'll now take a vote on the motion. Please raise your hand if you would like to pass the motion. I'm losing the language at this point. Great. I see two. Is my internet going slow? Oh, geez. Okay. Committee member Batal, did you raise your hand?
Yep, it's raised.
Okay, great. Is that everyone? Everyone's present for me.
You're good.
Cool. Thank you. And seeing as that's everyone, there were no abstentions or nays. Thank you so much for the community members that have attended as well. I know Commissioner Footer had a presentation that he wanted to give on the 8th Street redesign. Is that something you still want to give tonight, Commissioner Footer?
It is not time bound, so if we want to save it for next month, I'm happy to do that.
Is anyone very interested in seeing it tonight, or we can do it next month too. It's happy to take feedback.
The only thing that I would ask, if people don't mind, is I keep updating it, so I'll send another copy of it around. I just love your feedback. Commissioner Ray sent some really good ideas that I've been incorporating, and I'd love to hear your ideas too. Make a very long story short, or my presentation short. What I'm basically doing is I'm doing the research as much as I possibly can, putting these recommendations based on the things that I've heard from the community. Then I'm going to take this presentation and I'm going to share it with everybody, and I'm going to create a survey, and basically going to have people prioritize and vote on those things. And then I'm going to get a petition, and I'm going to just get everybody to sign the petition. I'm using that 80% kind of rule that I don't think applies anymore because of the TSP, SMD, yada, yada. But I'm still going to use that because I think it's just a good benchmark to prove like a majority opinion, vast majority opinion. But that's kind of the process of how I'm hoping to get some of this stuff to be escalated. And it's the impetus of this is that it's been a piecemeal approach, and it drives me nuts. And trying to work with DDOT to try and have the right hand talk to the left has been very difficult. And so this is my attempt in trying to throw a comprehensive plan of what the community wants so that they can just do it.
Thank you. We will table it until the next meeting then. I guess just a couple of brief announcements. Given the upcoming hearings, there is a hearing on the E-Bikes Act. So those are two acts, one by Councilmember Pinto and one by Councilmember Allen, to subsidize the purchase of e-bikes. They have different cutoff ranges, different benefits. So if anyone is interested in testifying there, there's more information on the council's website, and I'm happy to share that out and add it into the meeting minutes. And then I think that's mid-March. And then later in March, I think March 29th, I want to say, but I will also include this in the meeting minutes. DC Council will be having an oversight hearing for DDOT, or rather the budget oversight hearing for DDOT. So if there are any particular budgetary items that you want to advocate for around, Georgia Avenue maybe, and center running bus lanes or something like that, there will be an opportunity to provide feedback there.
Real quick point of clarification. I think that these are the performance oversight hearings, and the budget will come out after March 22nd.
Performance oversight hearing has already happened. So late March is when their budget oversight hearing is. Sorry.
Gotcha. When is it?
I think
when did you say?
It's late March. Let me just pull it up.
Yeah, because the mayor's budget drops on the 22nd, the same day as our meeting, and then the council starts to have hearings. I thought it was in April.
I'm just going to look at it very quickly then. It is. It is Thursday, March 30th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Nice. Yeah. Doing that one early. I'm impressed.
Yes. The first one is Friday, March 24th for the Committee of the Whole on the proposed budget. I will say, if you are at all interested in testifying, I would sign up now. And if you need to change your mind, you can, because if you sign up now, you will be you'll be higher up on the list. And you won't have to spend most of your day waiting to go. All right, well, thanks everyone so much for your time. Appreciate all the community members that have joined today and provided comments and have stuck around this long, and appreciate all the work that our committee members and commissioners have done. So thanks everyone for your time. Our next meeting will be the first Wednesday in April. And I had to shut down my computer to get on the meeting, and that would be Wednesday, April 5th, and that will be posted on our website as well. So looking forward to seeing everyone there.
Thanks all. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
good night.
Thanks.
We're
Have a great
adjourning
night.
at 8:30.